First contact. The Concordia, pride of the Zetheran Deep Space Fleet, glided through the darkness between stars, its crystalline hull reflecting distant starlight. Commander Vexera stood at the observation deck, her four eyes scanning the vast emptiness ahead. The Zetherans had mapped this sector thoroughly over the past century, yet something was different today. "Commander," Senior Analyst Kyer called from his station, his voice carrying an unusual tremor. "We're detecting an anomalous energy signature. It's massive." Vexera moved swiftly to the analysis station, her hover pads humming softly. The reading made no sense, a power output that would rival a small star, yet contained and controlled. "Origin?" she asked, mandibles clicking with curiosity. "Unknown, Commander. It's not matching any known civilization's energy patterns." Kyer's appendages danced across the holographic interface, but it's moving. Deliberately. The bridge crew fell silent as the implications sank in. In all their centuries of space exploration, the Zetheran Confederation had encountered dozens of spacefaring species, but none had ever demonstrated such energy manipulation capabilities. "Show me," Vexera ordered, and the main viewport shifted to display a magnified view of their target. The vessel that appeared before them defied conventional design philosophy. Where Zetheran ships were elegant crystalline structures designed to channel cosmic energies, this ship was a stark contrast of angles and armored plates. It was enormous, easily twice the length of the Concordia, with what appeared to be numerous weapon emplacements along its hull. "By the first light," whispered Navigation Officer Taylor. "Those aren't standard energy projectors. They're kinetic weapons." Vexera's scientific training warred with her instincts. Kinetic weapons had been abandoned by most civilizations millennia ago, deemed too primitive and inefficient. Yet the energy readings suggested this vessel possessed technology that could rival or exceed their own. "We're being scanned," Kyer announced. "Their sensors are incredible. They're mapping our entire ship down to the molecular level." Before Vexera could respond, a communication request flashed across their systems. The unknown vessel wanted to talk. "Accept the transmission," she ordered, straightening her posture. First contact protocols were clear. Show strength through dignity, respect through attention. The holographic display materialized in the center of the bridge, and for the first time, the Zetherans saw their counterparts. The alien was bipedal, with only 2 eyes and peculiar pigmentation. It wore what appeared to be a formal uniform adorned with symbolic markers of rank. "Greetings," the alien spoke, its words automatically translated by their systems. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation vessel Hyperion. We come in peace." Vexera felt a mixture of relief and fascination. "I am Commander Vexera of the Zetheran Confederation vessel Concordia. We too come in peace." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "Your vessel, it's unlike anything we've encountered." Captain Chen smiled, a gesture that the Zetherans' cultural database interpreted as friendly. "The Hyperion is our latest deep space battleship. We've learned through experience that it's better to be prepared for anything when exploring the unknown." "Battleship?" Vexera's translator struggled with the concept. "Your vessel combines both exploration and combat capabilities." "Of course," Chen replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Space is vast and often dangerous. We believe in being ready for both peaceful exchange and defensive action. Would you be interested in a closer look?" The offer was unprecedented. Most species guarded their military technology zealously, yet these humans seemed almost eager to share. "We would be honored," Vexera responded, her curiosity overwhelming any diplomatic hesitation. "Though I must admit, your technology raises many questions. The energy output alone." Chen's smile widened. "Ah, you've noticed our fusion drive. It's just one of many innovations we've developed. Humanity has always had a knack for pushing the boundaries of what's possible." As arrangements were made for a diplomatic delegation to visit the Hyperion, Vexera couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. These humans, with their curious blend of advanced technology and seemingly primitive design choices, their openness combined with obvious military might, represented something entirely new in the galaxy. Looking at her crew's excited faces, she knew they felt it too. The universe had just become a much more interesting place. Innovation unleashed. The Zetheran delegation materialized in the Hyperion's receiving bay, their matter transfer technology meeting seamlessly with the human ship's containment fields. Commander Vexor's first impression was one of ordered chaos. Where Zetheran ships were serene and minimalist, the human vessel bustled with activity. Crew members moved purposefully through corridors that seemed to blend function with efficiency in ways she'd never considered. Captain Chen greeted them personally, accompanied by her senior staff. "Welcome aboard the Hyperion," she said warmly. "I hope you'll find our ship interesting, though it might seem a bit unconventional by your standards." "Your artificial gravity is remarkable," noted Chief Engineer Zix, his sensor tendrils waving gently. "The field strength is perfectly calibrated, yet I detect no crystal matrices or quantum stabilizers." Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez, the Hyperion's chief engineer, grinned. "We use rotating habitat sections combined with electromagnetic field generators. Simple, reliable, and easy to maintain in combat conditions." The Zetherans exchanged glances. Such an elegant solution, yet none of their species had considered it. Their own gravity systems required constant maintenance and enormous energy expenditure. As they toured the ship, each revelation brought new surprises. The humans had weaponized principles that the Zetherans considered purely theoretical. Their point defense systems used predictive AI to track and intercept threats faster than organic minds could process. Their armor wasn't just protective. It was reactive, capable of adapting its molecular structure to different types of damage. "And this," Captain Chen said, leading them into a vast chamber, "is our hydroponics bay." Vexor stared in wonder at the vertical gardens that stretched from floor to ceiling. "You grow your own sustenance. In space, food synthesizers are fine for basic nutrition," Chen explained, "but nothing beats real vegetables. Plus, the plants help with oxygen recycling and crew morale." Before Vexor could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Chen's demeanor shifted instantly from tour guide to commander. "Bridge, report." "Captain, we've detected a massive gravitational anomaly forming 2 light minutes from our position," a voice responded. "Energy signature suggests a natural phenomenon, but it's threatening a nearby mining outpost." Chen turned to her guests. "I apologize, but duty calls. Would you like to observe our response? It might give you a better understanding of how we handle unexpected situations." Vexra nodded, fascinated by the rapid transformation of the ship's atmosphere from peaceful to alert without any sense of panic. On the bridge, holographic displays showed a swirling vortex of space-time threatening to tear apart a small asteroid mining facility. The Hyperion science officer, Dr. Emily Wong, was already analyzing data streams. "It's a quantum filament cascade," she announced. "The mining operation's exotic particle extraction must have weakened the local space-time fabric." "Can we stabilize it?" Chen asked, already moving to her command chair. "Conventional methods would take too long," Wong replied. "But if we reconfigure our weapon systems to create a counter-resonance." Chen nodded. "Do it. Rodriguez, divert power from the main fusion core to the forward battery. Tactical, prepare to modulate our kinetic strike platforms to match Dr. Wong's calculations." The Zetherans watched in amazement as the humans transformed their weapons of war into tools of salvation. Energy beams that could punch through battleship armor were precisely calibrated to stabilize space-time. Missile launchers fired specialized probes instead of warheads, creating a network of gravitational anchors around the anomaly. "Counter-resonance wave ready," Wong announced. "Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Hyperion's forward section lit up as dozens of energy beams converged on the vortex. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, gradually, the anomaly began to collapse in on itself, shrinking until it winked out of existence. Cheers erupted from the human crew, but Vexra barely heard them. Her mind was racing with the implications of what she'd just witnessed. These humans hadn't just built a warship. They'd created a vessel that could adapt to any situation, where weapons could become tools and soldiers could become saviors at a moment's notice. "Remarkable," she whispered. "Your species has such a unique approach to problem solving." Captain Chen smiled. "We've learned that the best solutions often come from looking at problems from unexpected angles. Speaking of which, would you be interested in seeing how we handle emergency medical situations? Our medical bay has some innovations I think your scientists might find intriguing." As they left the bridge, Vexra couldn't help but notice how quickly the crew returned to their normal duties, as if averting spatial disasters was just another day's work. Perhaps that was what truly set humans apart, not their technology or their strength, but their incredible adaptability and their ability to face the extraordinary with practical determination. Echoes of war. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Hyperion hummed with tension. What had begun as a cultural exchange session had quickly evolved into something more urgent. Commander Vexra and Captain Chen sat across from each other, while a holographic transmission from the Zetheran High Council flickered between them. "The Kragashi battle fleet has breached the outer rim defense line," announced Council Leader Mix, her image wavering with interference. "They're demanding immediate surrender of all Zetheran colonies in the sector." Vexra's secondary hearts quickened. The Krivashi were notorious raiders, but they'd never been this bold. How many ships? 37 capital ships with support craft. They've somehow developed shields resistant to our energy weapons. Captain Chen, who had remained silent, leaned forward. "Excuse me, Council Leader. These Krivashi, they're the same ones who've been raiding isolated outposts." "Correct, Captain. Though clearly they've been planning something far larger." Chen's expression shifted subtly, a change Vexra was learning to recognize as the human transitioning to tactical thinking. "And they've never encountered human ships before." "No," Mix confirmed. "They avoid Union space entirely." "Interesting." Chen activated a tactical display. "Commander Vexra, would your council be open to a joint operation? The Hyperion isn't just a single ship. It's a test bed for new defensive technologies. We've been developing countermeasures against exactly this kind of threat." The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Joint military operations with a newly discovered species. It was unprecedented. Yet the Kravashi threat was immediate and devastating. "What exactly are you proposing?" Mix asked. Ken's fingers danced across the display, bringing up technical schematics. "The Kravashi developed shields against your primary weapons, pure energy beams, but the Hyperion uses a hybrid approach. Kinetic weapons, electromagnetic pulses, graviton disruption fields. We can punch through their defenses while they're focused on countering Zetheran technology." "And what would humanity want in return?" someone asked from the council. "Knowledge exchange," Chen replied without hesitation. "Your understanding of quantum mechanics and crystal matrices could revolutionize our medical technology. Plus, we've learned that making friends is generally better than staying isolated in this galaxy." Vexra watched the human captain carefully. There was something in her demeanor, a controlled eagerness that suggested she wasn't revealing everything. "Captain, you seem rather prepared for this situation." Chen's smile was knowing. "Let's just say humanity has experience with being underestimated. We've learned to be ready for opportunities to prove ourselves." After further discussion, the council agreed. Within hours, the Hyperion was moving into position near the Zetheran defense fleet. Vexra, now serving as liaison, stood on the human bridge watching their preparations with fascination. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, but there was something else, a palpable excitement. They were about to face an enemy that outgunned them significantly, yet they seemed almost eager. "Your crew doesn't seem concerned about the odds," Vexra observed. Chen checked final system readouts as she replied. "Humans have a long history of beating overwhelming odds. We've learned that superior numbers don't always mean superior strategy." Besides, the Kriveshi have fallen into the oldest trap in warfare. They think they know all the rules of engagement. And they don't. Commander, if there's one thing humans excel at, it's changing the rules. Chen turned to her tactical officer. Status of Operation Trojan Horse. All systems ready, Captain. Drone swarms are in position and cloaked. Electronic warfare suites are spun up, just waiting for the Kriveshi to spring our trap. The massive enemy fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly where Chen had predicted. Their ships were dark, angular vessels bristling with weapons. The lead ship immediately broadcast their demands for surrender. Chen's response was not what anyone expected. She opened a channel to the entire Kriveshi fleet. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Hyperion. We've analyzed your shield technology. Impressive adaptation against Zetheran weapons. Very thorough. But you forgot something important about facing unknown enemies. She paused for effect. Sometimes the bait is also the hook. Before the Kriveshi could respond, Chen gave the order. Execute Operation Trojan Horse. What followed was unlike anything Vexera had ever witnessed in combat. The Hyperion's drone swarms, thousands of tiny automated ships, deactivated their cloaking fields and attached themselves to Kriveshi vessels. Rather than trying to penetrate the energy shields directly, they created localized disruption fields that caused the shields to collapse inward. Simultaneously, the Hyperion itself seemed to transform. Panels shifted, revealing hidden weapon systems, but instead of firing directly at the enemy ships, they created a complex web of gravitational distortions that trapped the Kriveshi fleet in a three-dimensional maze. Now, Chen ordered, show them why you don't corner humanity. Chains of command. The Kriveshi fleet hung suspended in the Hyperion's gravitational web, their mighty ships reduced to floating sculptures in space. But Captain Chen knew better than to celebrate too early. Trapped predators were often the most dangerous. Multiple power spikes detected, announced the sensor officer. They're trying to overload their cores to break free. Vexera's facial membranes paled. If those ships detonate, the combined explosion would devastate this entire sector. They're not going to detonate, Chen said with surprising calm, because we're going to give them a chance to surrender. Surrender. Vexera was bewildered. They're fanatics. They'd rather die than. Watch and learn, Commander. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to change the nature of the conflict. Chen opened a channel to the Kriveshi flagship. This is Captain Chen. Your shields are down. Your engines are contained. But more importantly, you're about to lose your entire command structure. The Kriveshi commander's harsh voice filled the breach. We do not fear death, human. Death isn't what you should be afraid of. Chen nodded to her communications officer, who initiated a complex sequence of transmissions. Right now, my electronic warfare suite is accessing every ship in your fleet. We're not targeting your weapons or your engines. We're targeting your chain of command protocols. Confusion rippled through the enemy fleet as their internal communications began to shift and fragment. Chen continued, her voice taking on an almost educational tone. You see, we studied your previous raids. Your entire military structure depends on absolute control from the top down. But what happens when every ship suddenly thinks it's receiving different orders from different commanders? The results were immediate and dramatic. The Kriveshi fleet erupted in chaos as contradictory commands flooded their networks. Ships began powering down weapons, others tried to retreat, while some maintained their suicide protocol. Impressive, Vexera whispered. You've turned their greatest strength into a weakness. Humans learned long ago that rigid command structures are vulnerable. We prefer flexibility, initiative, and adaptability. Chen turned to her tactical officer. Phase 2. The drone swarms attached to the Kriveshi ships shifted function, extending filaments that began interfacing with the vessel's external systems. Within minutes, ship after ship reported complete system failures. The Kriveshi commander's voice returned, now tinged with something approaching respect. How? Our systems are completely isolated from external access. Are they? Chen's voice held a hint of amusement. Or did you just assume they were? While you were focused on developing shields against energy weapons, we were developing ways to bridge the gap between different technological systems. Those aren't just drones attached to your hull. They're universal translators for machine language. The battle ended not with a dramatic explosion or a heroic last stand, but with something far more remarkable: dialogue. As the Kriveshi command structure crumbled, individual ship captains began making their own decisions. Many chose surrender over destruction, especially when Chen offered terms that focused on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Hours later, as Zetheran ships began arriving to secure the captured Kriveshi vessels, Vexra found Chen in the Hyperion's observation lounge, staring out at the aftermath of the battle. "Your species is full of surprises," Vexra said. "You could have simply destroyed them." "We could have," Chen agreed. "But that would have just created martyrs and inspired more conflict. This way, we've opened a dialogue. Some of those Kriveshi captains showed real potential once they were free to think for themselves. You planned this from the beginning, didn't you? Even before the Council contacted us about the invasion." Chen smiled. "Let's just say we've learned to be prepared for multiple outcomes. Humanity has a saying: the best victory is the one where you gain an ally instead of destroying an enemy. A remarkable philosophy for a species with such powerful weapons. Maybe we developed powerful weapons precisely so we could afford to be merciful." Chen turned from the window. "Speaking of which, I think it's time we discussed the real reason the Hyperion was in this sector. We've detected some unusual activity that might interest both our peoples." Beyond the horizon, the Hyperion's secure conference room was packed with an unusual mix of species. Commander Vexra sat beside Captain Chen, while reformed Kriveshi captains and Zetheran council members attended via hologram. The room's atmosphere was charged with anticipation as Chen activated a three-dimensional star map. 3 months ago, our deep space sensors detected these energy signatures. Chen began, highlighting several points of light. At first, we thought they were natural phenomena, but the pattern was too regular, too purposeful. The map zoomed in, revealing strange distortions in space-time. Vexra leaned forward, her scientific training immediately recognizing the implications. "These are artificial." "Correct." Chen expanded the display. "We believe they're ancient gates of some kind, built by a civilization that predates all of ours. They've been dormant for millennia, but something's changing. They're waking up." One of the Kriveshi captains, Dren, spoke up. "This is why our high command was so desperate to control this sector. They detected the energy signatures but couldn't decode them. And this is why the Hyperion was really here," Vexra realized. "You weren't just on a routine patrol." Chen nodded. "Humanity has learned that the greatest discoveries often require diverse perspectives. We could detect the gates, but we couldn't understand them. The Zetheran's crystal technology might be the key to interfacing with them. And the Kriveshi." She smiled at Dren. "Their experience with deep space phenomena could be crucial for safe activation." The implications were staggering. 3 species, until recently strangers or enemies, now faced the possibility of unlocking secrets that could transform their understanding of the galaxy. "There's more," Chen continued. "Our analysts believe these gates form a network. If we can activate them, we might discover new regions of space, perhaps even new galaxies that were previously beyond our reach. The risks would be enormous," one of the council members cautioned. "So are the potential benefits," Vexra countered. "Think of what we've already accomplished by working together. The Hyperion's technology combined with our theoretical understanding, the Krivashi's practical experience with deep space phenomena. We're stronger together than we ever were apart." "Commander Vexra is right," Dren added, surprising everyone. "Our people became raiders because we believed the galaxy's resources were limited, that we had to take what we needed to survive. But if these gates lead to new frontiers..." Chen stood, her expression serious but hopeful. What we're proposing is unprecedented. A joint mission, combining the best of all our civilizations. The Hyperion would serve as the test bed, modified with Zethran crystal matrices and Kriveshi sensor technology. A crew drawn from all three species, exploring together. The room erupted in discussion, but Vexra noticed something fascinating. Despite their differences, despite their recent conflicts, there was no hostility in the debate. Instead, there was excitement, curiosity, and a shared sense of purpose. Hours later, as the final details were being worked out, Vexra found Chen in their now familiar spot in the observation lounge. "Was this your plan all along?" she asked. "To unite our species through discovery rather than conflict?" Chen laughed softly. "Humanity learned long ago that the universe is too vast and too mysterious for any species to face alone. We built ships like the Hyperion not just to protect ourselves, but to bridge gaps between civilizations. Sometimes that means showing strength. Sometimes it means showing mercy, but it always means being ready to extend a hand in friendship, even to former enemies. Especially to former enemies. The greatest achievements in human history often came from people who were once on opposite sides learning to work together." Chen turned to face her friend. "The gates are just the beginning. Think of what else we might discover, not just about the universe, but about each other." Through the observation window, the first modified probe was launching toward the nearest gate, its hull gleaming with a combination of human engineering, Zethran crystals, and Kriveshi sensors. It was ugly by any conventional standard, a hybrid of different technologies and philosophies. But to Vexra, it was beautiful, a physical symbol of what diverse species could achieve together. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "when we first detected the Hyperion, we thought we were discovering a single new species. Instead, we found something far more valuable." "Oh," Chen raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "A future. One bigger and brighter than any of us could have imagined alone." As if in response to her words, the probe reached the gate. Energy patterns shifted, ancient machinery awakened, and a door to the unknown began to open. The next chapter in their shared story was about to begin. The end.